Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome. I welcome you all to this lecture in the course Sandhi in Paninian Grammar. In this course, so far we have studied Ach Sandhi, Hal Sandhi, Visarga Sandhi, Swadi Sandhi. Swadi Sandhi is the latest that we have finished. Now remains one peculiar theme or chapter, that is Prakriti Bhava. Prakriti Bhava is not a Sandhi. Let us see what is Prakriti Bhava. But then why is it studied in the Sandhi chapters? Why this is included as the fifth chapter of the Sandhi chapters or Pancha Sandhi Prakarana? The main reason is that this Prakriti Bhava provides a contrastive explanation of the Sandhis. In certain given environments, the sounds do not get modified. They remain in their own form. So, along with the rules that let us know when Sandhi is to be done and what Sandhi we should do, it is also equally important to know when Sandhi is not done. Which Sandhi is not done? This is precisely what is stated in this particular chapter, and that is why Prakriti Bhava is included amongst the Panchasandhi Prakarana. So, what is Prakriti Bhava? The word Prakriti Bhava can be explained in this particular manner. Prakritehe Bhavaha, the state of being in one's own form. Prakriti means one's own form. Prakriti also means nature. Prakriti also means original. In this particular context, it means one's own form. What it implies, and the term Prakriti Bhava implies, is that there are sounds which remain in their own form even when the sounds come in close proximity or samhita. What it also means is that there is no modification as an effect of close proximity, which otherwise happens, and we have seen plenty of examples of such modifications. What it also means then is that there is no Sandhi. So, Prakriti Bhava, the term indicates that there is no Sandhi. The sounds remain in their own form in given environments, and there is no modification, no Sandhi that happens in those peculiar restricted environments. This is stated by the sutra Pulutap Pragrihya Achinityam, which is the main sutra in Prakriti Bhava. Pulutap Pragrihya Achinityam. This is 6.1.125. The word Prakritya is continued in this particular sutra. Prakritya means by its own form. So, Pulutap Pragrihya, this is 1/3 of Pulutap Pragrihya. Achi is 7/1 of Ach. So, immediately before a vowel Pluta and Pragriha, they always remain in their own form. Nityam means always or obligatorily. So let me read the meaning of the sutra once again. Immediately before a vowel, that is achi, Pluta and Pragriha always remain in their own form, meaning thereby that they do not result in a modified form. That means no sandhi, neither ekasthanika dvyadesha or dvisthanika ekadesha or ekasthanika ekadesha, nothing doing. The sounds remain in their own form. For example, ehi Krishna atra gauscharati. In this case, Krishna, which is a pluta, and pluta is shown with the number 3 after it. So Krishna has got a as pluta followed by a in atra. So there is pluta a plus short rasva a, and they are in close proximity. So this would result in the savarna dirgha sandhi otherwise, and therefore this particular sutra comes into play and says that this is the environment for some other sutra, but this is a pluta followed by a vowel. So pluta remains in its own form and the other vowel also remains in its own form, which means that they do not get modified, they do not get substituted by some other sound element. You cannot do ehi Krishna atra gauscharati. No, that's not possible. Ehi Krishna atra gauscharati. It has to stay like that. Similarly, Hari etau. In this case, long E is followed by A, that is ach. This is the scope of application of iko yanachi, and therefore E would be substituted by y, but because this word Hari is nominative dual, and by the sutra idude dvivachanam pragriham, this long E is termed pragrihya, and by 6.125 pluta pragrihya achinityam, this sutra applies and this E remains in its own form when a vowel follows. That means yan substitute does not take place. This is what is the meaning of pluta pragrihya achi nityam. Now we need to know what is a pluta and what is a pragrihya in order to understand the meaning of this sutra in a better manner. So now in this lecture we shall spend time to understand what is a pluta and what is a pragrihya. Here are the sutras which explain what is a pluta. The Adhikara Sutra is Vakyasya Tehe Pluta Udattaha 8 to 82. Then Pratyabhivade Ashudre 8 to 83. Durad Dhutecha 8 to 84. Haihe Prayoge Haihayoho 8 to 85. Gurorandruto Nantyasyaapyekaikasya Pracham 8 to 86. Aplutavad Upasthite 6.129 and E Chakravarmanasya 6.130. And these are the sutras of pragrihya. Idude dvivachanam pragriham adaso mat she nipata ekajanang ot sambuddhau shakalyasya tavanarshe uyaha idu taucha saptamyarthe. Let us study these sutras one by one and understand what pluta and pragrihya are. What is a pluta? Let us take this question first. Pluta is a variety of vowel, lengthwise, described to require 3 matra time for pronunciation. And this is always shown with number 3 after the vowel grapheme. So, e, etc. The next question is, when is pluta used in Sanskrit? And the answer given is in this particular sutra. Vakyasya tehe Plutah Udattaha. There are 4 padas in this particular sutra. Vakyasya is 6/1 of Vakya, that is part of. Tehe is 6/1 of T. T means part of the word which begins with the final vowel defined by Achontyadi T in the first chapter. Plutaha is 1/1 of Pluta, this is substitute. Udattaha is Udatta vowel, this is also a substitute. Achaha continues and is present here by the paribhasha achascha, and achaha here means in place of. So the sutra means in place of a vowel achaha, which is part of the T portion tehe of the sentence vakyasya, substitute the pluta vowel which is also udatta. Plutaha udattaha. I repeat, in place of a vowel which is part of the T portion of the sentence, substitute the pluta vowel which is also udatta with an additional property. So if you have brute plus agnichit, this is a sentence brute plus agnichit because there is one tinganta, namely brute, and the other word is agnichit. Now the T part of this sentence is the T part of the final word, and that T part is id. Agnichit has got 3 vowels, one a and 2 e's, and the final e is in chi. So starting from this e up to the end of agnichit, that is id, this is the T portion. E is part of this T portion. So this e is substituted by a pluta as well as udatta e. This is what is shown in this example. So in the word agnichit, a is marked with a horizontal bar, gni is marked with a horizontal bar, indicating that they are anudattas, and chi is not marked, indicating that it is an udatta vowel. This is how we show udattas when we follow the Rigvedic system of showing and marking accents or swaras. And then you have Devadatta Iha. So Devadatta has got the final vowel a, and that is udatta, followed by Iha. So there is no sandhi. That happens over here. Pluta pargriha achi nityam. So this final vowel, which is of T, becomes pluta, and it is also an udatta. Now this is an adhikara sutra, that means it governs a particular set of sutras which follow. Let us study them one by one. Pratyabhivade Ashudre, this is 8 to 83. So Pratyabhivada is a reply salutation. Somebody salutes you and you reply by the salutation. That is Pratyabhivada. Ashudre in the case of other than Shudra. Vakyasya is 6/1 of Vakya, part of. Tehe is 6/1 of T, part of the word which begins with the final vowel, Plutaha and Udattaha. So Achaha also is present. So the sutra means, in the sense of a reply salutation, in the case of other than the Shudra, in place of a vowel which is part of the T portion of the sentence, substitute the Pluta vowel which is also udatta. I repeat, in the sense of a reply salutation, in the case of other than the Shudra, in place of a vowel which is part of the T portion of the sentence, substitute the Pluta vowel which is also udatta. So first of all, we have a case of Abhivada, in which Devadatta is saluting his teacher and saying that, I am Devadatta saluting you. Abhivadaye Devadattoham. Now in reply, the teacher says, Ayushmanedhi Devadatta. So this is reply salutation in which the teacher is wishing the student well-being. And in this case, the word Devadatta is prolated, is uttered as Pluta. That's why there is number 3 written after the final vowel, and to mark that this is a pluta. However, there is no sandhi that is possible. So, this is what is pratyabhivade ashudre. Then we have durat dhutecha. This sutra has got 3 padas, durat and hute and cha. Durat means from afar. Hute is 7/1 of hut in the sense of an address. Vakyasya, tehe, plutaha and achaha, all these continue. There is a Vartika on this particular sutra which says ekashruti rishyate. That means there is no need for any udatta vowel. Just the pluta would do, because then here you are addressing somebody from far afar. So you are actually calling somebody, and in doing that the final vowel in the sentence gets prolated. So if you have when, so the meaning of the sutra is this: when addressed from afar, in place of a vowel which is part of the T portion of the sentence, substitute the pluta vowel which is also pluta vowel. So for example, Saktun Piba Devadatta. In this particular sentence, Devadatta comes at the end of the sentence. The final vowel is a after ta, and that is the reason why this is part of T, and that is why it is prolated. So you have Saktun Piba Devadatta, and this second sentence is immediately followed by the next sentence iha, and iha has got e at the beginning. Now this pluta vowel and this e, you cannot do any sandhi in them, because this pluta vowel is stated to remain in its own form. Saktun Piba Devadatta. Next sutra is Haihe Prayoge Haihayoho 8 to 85. This sutra has got 2 padas, Haihe Prayoge and Haihayoho. Haihe Prayoge means in the use of the words Hai and He, and Haihayoho means in place of Hai and He. Durat and Hute are the words which continue. Vakyasya, plutaha, achaha, these also continue. So, the meaning of the sutra is in the sense of an address from far afar. When the words hai and he are used in the sentence, only their vowel is substituted by a pluta and not that of a T of the sentence. I repeat, in the sense of an address from afar, when the words hai and he are used in the sentence, only their vowel is substituted by a pluta vowel. So if we have he followed by achyuta, so he is prolated and achyuta has got a at the beginning, so one cannot apply engah padantadati over here and substitute the purva rupa in place of both. This is not possible. Haihe prayoge haihayoho states that he is a pluta, and pluta pragrihya achinityam says that he and a, they both stand by their own form. Similarly, if you have Rama hai iha, and hai is a pluta and this pluta is followed by e, so echoyavayavaha has the scope of application, but echoyavayavaha does not apply here. Hai and e, these two sounds, they remain in their own form unmodified. Prakriti, this is what is prakriti bhava. The next sutra is Gurorandruto nantyasya pekaikasya pracham 8 to 86. This sutra has got the following padas: Guroho, Anrutaha, Anantyasya, Api, Ekaikasya and Pracham. 6 padas: Guroho, 6-1 of Guru. Anrutaha is 6-1 of Anrut in place of a vowel other than Ru. Anantyasya is non-final. Api is as well. Ekaikasya of each one by one. And Pracham is in view of the Eastern grammarians. The words Durad and Hute are continued. So they mean in the sense of an address from afar. And Vakyasya, Plutaha and Achaha, they continue. So the meaning of the sutra is, in view of Eastern grammarians, when addressed from afar, in place of a vowel which is part of the word which is non-final and which is other than Ru, substitute the Pluta vowel one by one. I repeat, in view of Eastern grammarians, when addressed from afar, in place of a Guru vowel, heavy vowel, which is part of the word which is non-final and which is other than Ru, substitute the Pluta vowel one by one. So, Guru is defined as Dirgham Ch. Any long vowel is Guru, or any short vowel which is followed by a Sanyoga, two consonants, and the previous short vowel becomes Guru. And so we have De, which is a long vowel, which is a Guru, and then The, this is also a long vowel because it is followed by immediately by two takaras. So this A in The is also a Guru. And so we have two cases, Devadatta, in which De is prolated, Devadatta or Devadatta. In both these cases, the sutra Guru Randruto Rantyasya Pracham applies and prolates the vowel. And in the final case, Devadatta, the final vowel is prolated as well, and then this prolated vowel, when followed by E, remains in its own form, does not get modified. So this is what is Prakriti Bhava. The next sutra is Aplutavad Upasthite, 6-1-129. Aplutavat means like a non-pluta vowel, and Upasthite is 7/1 of Upasthita, which means iti, which is a non-Vedic word. This is a technical term. Upasthita means a non-Vedic iti, notably the iti available in the Padapatha. So, the meaning of the sutra is this: immediately before a non-Vedic iti, a pluta acts like a non-pluta vowel. So, if iti follows, then there is scope that a pluta vowel behaves like a non-pluta vowel, meaning thereby that there is modification that is possible. So, you have Sushloka iti, where ka has got an a which is a pluta, and this has got e afterwards, and so Pluta Pragriha Achunityam would state that this pluta stands for its own form and does not get modified, but this particular sutra says that since the Avaidika iti has come immediately after it, so this a and e, they could be modified and the sandhi can substitute them, and that is what happens. A plus e and the guna sandhi takes place, and so a replaces both of them and we get Sushloketi. This is Aplutavad Upasthite, posing an exception in a particular condition, namely Avaidika iti. And finally, E Chakravarmanasya, which says that according to the view of Chakravarmana, long E is also considered like a non-pluta vowel. So the meaning of the sutra is, in view of the grammarian Chakravarmana, that is optionally E3, that is E pluta, becomes like a non-pluta vowel. That means sandhi is optionally possible, and Prakriti Bhava is also optionally possible. So if we have Chinuhi and Iti, and then chinuhi has got e at the end, and then this gets prolated, and then you have iti following. In this case, according to Chakravarmana, the Prakriti Bhava is happening as well as the Sandhi is also happening. So this Pluta acts like a non-Pluta. So if it is a non-Pluta, there will be Sandhi that will be happening, and if it is a Pluta, there will be Prakriti Bhava that will be the result. So you have Chinuhi iti as one option and Chinuhi iti as the other option. Similarly, Chinuhi plus idam and Chinuhi dam, these are the two options available. After having studied what is a Pluta, let us study what is a Pragriya. The first sutra is Idu de Dvivachanam Pragriyam 1111. What it means is the following. Idu de Dvivachanam means eat, oot, et and Dvivachana. These are the four constituents. Dvivachana is a dual suffix and eat stands for long e, ud for long u and ed for a. So, idu de dvivachanam means a dvivachana suffix, a dual suffix ending in long e, u and a. This is what is called Pragriya here. So, the meaning of the sutra is this: dual suffix ending in e, u and a is termed Pragriya. So, we have here Hari plus etau. Hari is nominative as well as accusative dual of the word Hari, followed by etau. So, this e followed by a, this e is called Pragriya, and so this will not be modified into ya following Iko Yanachi. Similarly, Vishnu plus imau. Vishnu is long u, also referring to the 1/2 or 2/2 of the word Vishnu, and so this is followed by a vowel. This is the scope of Iko Yanachi, but this particular sutra, this particular sandhi does not take place because this u is Pragriya and Plutap Pragriya Achinityam. So, this u remains in its own form. Similarly, Gange Amu. Here a is followed by a, but a is a dual form and that is why it remains in its own form. There is no modification, no sandhi, only Prakriti Bhava. And then we have Pachete Imau. Pachete is also a dual form, and once again Echo Yavayavaha will not take place because this a is dual and stated to be Pragriya, and Plutap Pragriya Achinityam prohibits any modification and remaining in its own form. The next sutra is Adaso Mat. This sutra has got two padas, Adasaha and Mat. Adasaha is 6/1, Mat is 5/1 referring to ma. Eat, oot and Pragriya are the words which continue. So, the sutra means long e and long u that come immediately after the sound ma in the word adas are termed Pragriya. I repeat, long e and long u that come immediately after the sound ma in the word adas are termed Pragriya. So, Ramakrishna Amu Asate. This is the example in which Amu and Asate are in close proximity. So, Amu is the nominative dual of the word adas in masculine gender, and so Amu plus Asate, this does not result in the sandhi. U and a, they remain in their own form. Why? Because u is considered Pragriya. Similarly, Ami Ishaha. So, Ami is nominative plural of adas in masculine. So, Ami plus Ishaha, there is no Savarna Dirgha Sandhi. Both of them remain by their own form or in their own form. The next sutra is She. She is a reference to a Vedic pratyaya which is added after the Pratipadikas, particular Pratipadikas, also stated by Panini in one of his sutras, Supam Suluk Purva Savarna Che Ya Dadya Ya Jala, and so on. So the word that ends in the suffix She is called Pragriha. In fact, the suffix She is termed Pragriha. So you have Yushme and Asme followed by Indra Brihaspati, and still A and E, they do not get modified and they remain in their own form. Then we have Nipata Eka Janang 1114. This sutra has got three padas, Nipataha, Ekaj and Anang. Nipataha is a reference to a category of words. Ekaj means one vowel. Anang means other than ang. Ang is a nipata. Ang is a preverb. So the meaning of the sutra is this. The one vowel nipata category words except ang are termed pragriya. I repeat, the one vowel nipata category words except ang are termed pragriya. So for example, E Indraha. Here the word E is uttered in the sense of Vismaya. Similarly, U Umeshaha. U is uttered in the sense of Vitarka. A Evam Nuki Manyase. This is part of the emphasis in the sentence. And A Evam Kilatat, here A refers to Smarana. However, and in these cases, therefore, the Ekach Nipata, E, U, A, these are all one vowel Nipata category words, and so they do not get modified into something else. They remain in their own form. However, in case of A, which is not Ngit, which is Angit, let us say A Ushnam, Oshnam, and the meaning is Ishat. Ishat means little. So little hot, that is warm. So A Ushnam, A and U, their sandhi takes place and the guna sandhi happens and we get the output Oshnam, because this A is not Anang, this A is Ang. Then we have Ot. The word Nipataha continues. Ot stands for vowel O. The sutra means Nipata category words ending in O are termed Pragriha. I repeat, Nipata category words ending in O are termed Pragriha. So we have Aho Ishaha, Aho Iti, in which O comes at the end of Aho and Aho, and this O does not get modified even when the vowels come in close proximity. They remain in their own form. The next sutra is Sambuddhau Shakalyasya Vanarashe. This sutra has got four padas, Sambuddhau, which is 7-1 of Sambuddhi, and Sambuddhi is 1/1 suffix of vocative case, and 7/1 here means nimitta or conditioned. So conditioned by Sambuddhi. Shakalyasya means in view of the grammarian Shakalya. Itau is 7/1 of Iti, immediately before. Anarshe is 7/1 of Anarsha, that is non-Vedic. Oth continues, sound O. So now the sutra means sound O, which is conditioned by the 1/1 suffix of the vocative case, is optionally termed Pragriha, because Shakalya thinks so, others do not. So optionally termed Pragriha when followed immediately by the non-Vedic Iti. I repeat, sound O, which is conditioned by the 1/1 suffix of the vocative case, is optionally termed Pragriha when followed immediately by the non-Vedic Iti. So the original word is Vishnu and when you have the 1/1 suffix of the vocative case added to it, Vishnu becomes Vishno. So, this is conditioned by the sambuddhi suffix. Now, Vishnu plus iti. In this case, O is term pragriha and when followed by E, and it is optionally also getting the modification. So, it is optionally a pragriha. So, you have Vishnu iti as well as Vishnau iti, and once you have Vishnau iti, another optional rule will apply and drop and delete this final verb optionally. So, you will have Vishnau iti as the second option, and the third option is Vishna iti. We will derive these three options. Next we have the sutra Uyaha 1117. This sutra has got only one word, 6/1 of Oi. Shakalyasya itau and anarshe continue. So, the sutra means sound U, which is part of Oi, is optionally term pragriha when followed immediately by the non-Vedic iti. I repeat, sound U, which is part of Oi, is optionally term pragriha when followed immediately by the non-Vedic iti. And these are the examples: U plus iti, and optionally U is also substituted by V, so you get viti, or it remains in its own form and you get U plus iti. The next sutra is Om 1118, which says that in place of this U, as stated by the previous sutra, there are two choices when you have U plus iti, either U plus iti remaining in their own form or U is substituted by V and you have viti, and the third option is that this U becomes a long nasal vowel. So, the meaning of the sutra is sound U, which is part of Oi, is optionally term pragriha when followed immediately by the non-Vedic iti, and optionally it is substituted by Om. Then we have finally Idu Taucha Saptamyarthe, which says that Eet and Oot, that is long E and long U, when they denote the sense of the locative case, then also they are considered to be pragriha. And in the sense of locative case, E and long U are termed pragriha. For example, Somo Gauri Adhishritaha. Here Gauri has got long E, which stands for the locative case as well. Similarly, Mamaki Tanu iti. So, Tanu stands for the locative case and then it remains in its own form when followed by another vowel. There is no further substitution that happens. Gauri does not change to Yanadesha Gauriya, it remains in its own form. After having seen the sutras describing what is a pluta and what is a pragriha, there are two other sutras not in the context of pluta and pragriha, which also state that the vowels remain in their own form, and these sutras are these ones, the two ones, Iko Asavarne, Shakalyasya Rasvascha and also Rutyakaha. Let us study the first sutra, Iko Asavarne, Shakalyasya Rasvascha. This sutra has got 5 padas, Ikaha, Asavarne, Shakalyasya and Rasvaha and Cha. So, Ikaha is 1/3 and Asavarne qualifies Achi. This is brought about by the paribhasha Achascha. Shakalyasya, Rasvaha and Cha. Padantaha continues and Prakritya also continues. So, the meaning of the sutra is this. In view of the grammarian Shakalya, which means optionally, ik appearing at the end of a pada, when followed by a non-homogeneous vowel, remains in its own form and is substituted by a short variety of that vowel. I repeat, In view of the grammarian shakalya, that is optionally, ik appearing at the end of a pada, when followed by a non-homogeneous vowel asabarane achi, remains in its own form prakritya and is substituted by a short variety of that vowel rasvascha. So we have chakri plus atra, where e is immediately followed by a. This is the scope of ikoyanachi, but initially this sutra says that there is prakriti bhava, and this prakriti bhava is accompanied with the shortening of the long vowel. So you get chakri plus atra, and optionally it says that you can also apply the sandhi. So there will be the other form chakryatra, either chakri atra, a short vowel, or sandhi, that is chakryatra. And finally rutyakaha, 128. This sutra has got two padas, ruti and akaha. Ruti is 7/1 of rut, short ru, and akaha is ak, 1/3. So this sutra means, in view of the grammarian shakalya, that is optionally, immediately before the short vowel ru, ak at the end of a pada remains in its own form optionally. I repeat, in view of the grammarian shakalya, that is optionally, immediately before the short vowel ru, ak at the end of a pada remains in its own form optionally. Here is an example, sapta plus rishi, we are in a compound, and in a compound sapta plus rishi, here there is a at the end of sapta followed by ru. So this is the scope of application of guna sandhi, and the sutra says that optionally this does not happen. So you get one option where you have sapta and rishi, both vowels remaining in their own form, and as a second option there is guna sandhi that takes place and substitutes both a and ru by ar. So we have sapt, ar and shi, that is saptarshi. To summarize, we have studied the prakriti bhava, we studied what is a pluta and what is a pragriha, and pluta pragriha achinityam states that pluta and pragriha immediately before a vowel, they stand in their own form and do not get modified. We also looked at two independent sutras which also talk about prakriti bhava, and we come to know that prakriti bhava is a contrast of the sandhi. So sandhi can be, with reference to prakriti bhava, called vikriti bhava, that is a modification or substitution. Prakriti bhava, it is very important to remember that prakriti bhava is reported only in between padas as part of the vakya, and prakriti bhava is not found as pada internal, that it is used in the derivation of a pada, for example like ramabhyam and so on. Now we have seen the theoretical explanation of all sandhis and the sutras that bring about these modifications and sandhis. Now it is time for us at the end of this particular course to take some text and apply this knowledge of the sandhis, namely for splitting and also generating to that particular text. This we shall do in the remaining two lectures. Thank you for your patience.